a rift per se between the community and code enforcement in Deltona. There's been for a while a lot of controversy. What specific steps are you guys planning on doing to change policies, practices, procedures to address those issues? Can you explain, are your officers assigned to an area so that officer gets to know that area, or does one officer cover the whole city? So like, is there a District 2 officer that gets to go around and know those people and handle that area, kind of get that familiarity?
When you do a complaint, is it an anonymous complaint, or the officer will go and tell your neighbor that you complain about it?
You all say you want to be compliant, not punitive. So there was one of your slides that you had a whole list of people like the SHIP, I don't even remember the other names that were on there, but there was a whole list of places that you reach out to. Thank you for whoever's going back to it for me. That you reach out to. When do you reach out to them? At what point do you reach out to them for help, to help the citizen? I mean, have you identified that, okay, we know that this house belongs to Miss Smith, she's 67, she can't get out on the overlawn? Or do y'all just keep going back and saying, okay, you're not in compliance, you're not in compliance. Here's information of who you can reach out to.
How are we handling now if, and I know sometimes it may have been an anonymous complaint of, hey, this specific home like they're addressing, and then you go and you look at that and you're like, yes, but then we're getting the calls of, hey, this home was code enforced, but then these three neighbors have the same situation. So what are we doing to address that? Because I think it's not so much that they went just to pick on that home, it's that was more that mission, and then maybe, so that I think has been the biggest complaint. Right. And it's like I had even said earlier, is if we've got one home that we're targeting, but we have three more lawns right here. We have this home has this car, but 2 doors down there's the same thing. Just to make sure that if we're going to hit a block, let's hit the block.
In 2018, the commission voted to switch to a new special magistrate. The motion that was put on the floor and the piece of paper that was actually signed by the mayor stated in no uncertain terms that that had to be done every year by continuing resolution.
Okay, you talk about the special magistrate. What about the county court cases?
The question that I actually had was, when are you allowed to go on someone's property? Like to their backyard, to their side yard? Mark, when is that?
The parking, is that new that that's a violation, or we just, because we live far out by the farms, we just never... How does a business tax receipt fall under code enforcement?
When a case is closed, will you get a notice of the case being closed?
I'd like to know about the city's use of David, why it's using David, why we have several hundred David requests, who's using David, and who is overseeing the use of David.
I have 3 dogs, and I walk them regularly every single day. And as I'm walking them, I see a lot of dog poop all over the place. I'm from the Northeast, and that's typically not allowed. I want to know, you know, who enforces that? Is there an enforcement? I pick up after my dogs all the time. I don't like to pick up poop, but they're my dogs. I mean, if it was my child in a poopy diaper, I'd be cleaning up her diaper. So, is there an enforcement when it comes to people leaving their poop on people's lawns?
Self-initiating. That was interested to hear that, because I was told when I called that I didn't know an address, and I said, well, you're going to go right past it on your way to such and such, and they said, oh, it has to be an individual call, we need an address. And there's a lot of houses that don't have addresses. It's really hard to know, you know, even what they are. Are there any plans to be looking at the codes as they stand right now? For instance, the inoperable vehicle, because Steve was doing a sweep through our neighborhood, and he happened to be parked, and I said, oh, hi, and knocked on the window, and because there's a wreck that hasn't moved in 5 years, and he said, well, as long as it doesn't have flat tires, you can't prove it's inoperable because you can't ask them to move it. And that seemed pretty strange, like you're having to prove a negative or something. And you would probably recognize the address because it's
What is with particularity, the governmental interest in, and how does laying down mulch over top of a patch of grass change that area? What's the physical change that happens to that area that now makes it a parking spot when it wasn't a parking spot before? And what is the governmental interest in using this mulch or rocks to designate this outside of the driveway?
For garage sale signs and political signs. And how long can they be up, and when do they have to come down, and do they get violated?
Rental property. Do we inspect rental properties yearly? Did you ask them to obtain occupational licenses? Did you match tax records, tax exemption records to your water bill to determine whether the house is rented or not? Because I see some properties around here, and I know because I do my own search. Sometimes I go to Volusia County tax appraiser's website, and it tells you there if it's homesteaded or not. And some of these houses are rented, okay, and they get homesteaded. When is Deltona going to take the reins on this issue and trying to rein in what the landlords are doing or the people are doing with the homesteads and renting the property, cheating the city and the state out of tax money.
How much money was made in 2020 by code enforcement?
Looking over the charter, I love researching, and I've been spending countless hours doing this. And I'm looking over the charter, the Article 2, the Section 2, it's code enforcement. And most of the ordinance in that article are from 1996. The city was incorporated on 95, so they're 96, 2004, and the one that I can find, which is the closest to us, it was on 2012. So I think that we have to go back and look at it because our city had grown. We're not an elderly community like we used to. We're more as a family unit where we have multiple kids, we have other things, and it's hard to sometimes keep up with all of this really old ordinances.
When I'm thinking about the size of Deltona and the fact that these folks are doing 3 jobs, that doesn't seem like enough people. So we're trying to wrap up staff, is that right? Okay, and what is the level of service that we're trying to reach?
Is it not true that in your contract, it states, in the near future, we will talk in more detail about moving animal control to Volusia County under a contract?
When there's a deceased animal on the road, I don't know if this is even the appropriate topic, but there's a lot of Facebook pages that try to help people get reunited with their lost pets. And so sometimes somebody will say, hey, there's a light brown dog at the corner of Cortland and Howland, right? So if I'm missing that particular dog, I might go see if that's my dog, and if so, I'm gonna collect it so I can give it a proper farewell. But a lot of times, these animals are on the side of the road for an extended period of time. Is it animal control? Like, do we call animal control to pick up the animals? Is it a case when code goes out and they see that perhaps there's a structural thing, you know, it's not like overgrown grass or things like that? Are they providing some kind of brochure or literature? Because I understand from attending city commission meetings that as a city, the city staff can't like go and solicit somebody and say, hey, do you want to use this program and apply for SHIP funds for your roof? But if they're out there for an occurrence like this, are they provided material so they can look it up and see if that's something they want to explore? Is that what's happening? The one that says special magistrate cases with compliance, so that's people who have had code come out and say they were given a 10-day warning and that 10 days is up, then they begin to getting fined, am I right? And so then the 118 down to 83 is people who ultimately corrected the situation and I'm assuming paid the fine, but then the people that say special magistrate cases with non-compliance fines, those are the people that are going to contest the violation? Is that what that means?
is there anything in place where arrangements can be made with waste management that, hey, if this individual can maybe get a group of people together to help them bring all that stuff to the curb, excuse me, that waste management will make a special pickup? If you drive up and down Deltona Boulevard, there are so many businesses there that just really, you could tell they're not in compliance, that have been for a while. That is there a place people can go on the website to see that? Because I think if folks could see, oh, something is in a process of being done. Like, does code enforcement have, what are the authority? What is the authority that code enforcement have when it comes to going on residents' private properties, entering their private residences?
Uh, 6618E. Can you explain that to me?
The section that the gentleman mentioned is section 6618E. Improper parking in the front yard.
Yes, sir. You have a ride-along program that a person from Deltona could ride along with your inspectors just to get a feel of what your job is like during the day? Yard waste, and how's that handled? If somebody has to remove, you're saying you got to...
Yeah, Richard, you want to handle yard waste? On yard waste?
Well, sir, do you have a contractor who does that?
There are parts of Deltona that have sidewalks through their neighborhoods, parts of them that have no sidewalks, and parts of them that have a couple houses with sidewalks started here, then down the road further, there's a sidewalk started here. So it's unfinished sidewalks throughout the neighborhood. And I'm hearing you say that if you need to extend your driveway, it's permissible to use rock or mulch. But I've also been told that in doing so, that is considered an improvement to your driveway, and therefore you will be required to pay for your stretch of the sidewalk in front of your house. That's how the sidewalks are being put in, is via the homeowner when they implement some type of what is deemed an improvement. So what I would like to know is this true, and then what?
Is code enforcement still being used as a retaliation force?
I've been in Deltona for a little while, and in some other states that I've lived in, they've had, like, we'll just call them like special cleanup pickups, where a couple times a year, right, there's a task force that comes out, you put it at your curb, we're going to take it, regardless of kind of what it is, almost like your free pass almost for the year. I'd love to see something like that.
My question is, how many staff members were there in solid waste, and how many staff members were in animal control in 1997 and 2000? I thought back in January, code enforcement was not going to be leaving door hangers anymore. They were going to be sending letters. Did that get changed since January?
I do want to ask you, task number 2 from your contract Review and recommend opportunities for rebranding of code enforcement. This can run the gamut from name change, uniforms, and communication style. This has not really been something that you've been bringing up at these meetings, you know? So where are you on that, on the rebranding?
So the last meeting that I was at, I had actually heard something for the first time, and I had heard about the David database. So I just wanted to, and I know, right, this is a very controversial topic, so we don't need to have any solutions tonight because I'm sure that's not going to happen. But I went on the website and I was looking, and some of the things that concerned me was everything that I saw on the website was very specific to how this is a law enforcement tool for law enforcement and criminal justice professionals. And that was stated right on the website. So I just, as a citizen of Deltona, have a lot of concerns about the personal identifiable information that is returned using and accessing that database. And for really, and I'm a pretty realistic person, I could not in my head justify why code enforcement would need to have access to all of that information. Like obviously verifying a property, ownership, that all I get, but when I saw the list of information that's returned on that, that just was a great cause of concern to me.
Yeah, when's the attitude actually going to change? The true attitude of code enforcement. I've been here 30 years. In the first 5 years, I got 92 code enforcements against me. I wonder if it's because I spoke out back then against John Mayer. Now, since I've been speaking out the last 6 years, I haven't had but one. It's funny how that works. But that one, the guy had an attitude. He came up with an attitude. He would have gotten a lot more from me if he didn't have an attitude. So what I'm suggesting, and I suggest it really strongly, is that every officer goes through at least twice a year how to treat people. What I consider human-to-human contact, not what I consider radio-to-human contact. Human-to-human contact, something Deltona has lacked for 25 years.
I'm going to ask this question because I cannot personally say that I've seen it, but I've had other people tell me, are they carrying tasers?